we got to be the first ones
want
to
the
present.
crunch?
Sure. I got a car. I get the remote for once. That's great. I'm gonna
Sounds
put
like
that.
my house, too.
Oh yeah, I'll put that there so that way you don't tip it onto your laptop. Cool. So let's get started. So, that's cool. No problem. All right. So today we're going to talk about working with investors, and really it's about creating long-term opportunities. I'm going to talk as loud as I possibly can so people at the back can hear me. You've got the
Mark,
mic.
do you want us to use the mic?
Yeah, sure. You
Yeah.
guys do whatever you want.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
We'll talk the same.
Awesome.
We'll use our dad voices.
Wonderful. So we'll just do a quick introduction. Why don't you go ahead, Keith?
Yeah, so I've been a mortgage broker since 2016 with Mortgage Alliance and Rich Mortgage Group. I'm top 5% across Canada in Mortgage Alliance nationally. I've been a real estate investor since 2003. My wife and I have owned as many as 19 doors at any one time. We've invested mostly in residential real estate. We've looked to get into commercial. We haven't had anything come together yet, but I do commercial and residential mortgages, so that has worked well for me. I am a certified real estate investment advisor, so I have different levels and different types of conversations with real estate investors than most mortgage brokers have the ability or capability to have, either because they don't invest in real estate or they just don't understand how investors think. I've also a certified financial life professional, which means I help people along the way with helping understand the relationship to money, wealth, and worth. It's not about giving them and offering them investments, it's about understanding where and how their brain works when they have opportunities and money. I'm also a Smith Maneuver certified professional. If any of you are not familiar with that term was created by Fraser Smith in the late 1980s and early 1990s. It is the process of being able to turn your non-tax deductible debt from your primary home mortgage into a tax deductible opportunity so that you can minimize taxes, which is something that pretty much all Canadians are looking to do. The wealthy have used it for many years. Most basic Canadians don't understand how they can do it too and take advantage of something that they think is purely just for the wealthy. Mr. Jamil.
Cool. Yeah, and so I'm Jamil Thabani. My background actually in real estate started about 15 years ago in the investment space. From buying my first property and then just focused in on resale and actually working with investors to help them find what they're looking to do with their portfolio, increase, decrease, things like that, and then finding the right partners to have in place, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. So what we're going to talk to you about today is understanding that there's a variety of different type of investors. It's just not like, everyone wants to just buy everything that's out there. There's specific type of investors for a specific type of products. And then it's not about just working with every type of investor. It's the type of investor that you want to work with, what resonates best with you, with your skill set, and where you really want to take your career to. And then going into you finding yourself as becoming the agent of choice. So we all know that everybody knows realtors, and that person you just spoke to probably talked to 3 other guys. So how do you stand out and make yourself the agent of choice, and having the right people around you so that way, listen, at the end of the day, it's having a group of people who can provide the right advice as opposed to you just having to carry the torch on your own. So let's just talk a little bit about understanding investors. So we have to understand that there's a variety of different investors out there. Okay, so it starts off with people who might be buying their first property. It could be a first-time home buyer who wants to convert that property into an investment. It could be a first-time home buyer who just needs to know they're actually investing in real estate at that point in time. But then it kind of starts building up from there. And so we've kind of labeled them as first-time investors, intermediate investors, which are people who own 1 to 3 properties, and then experienced individuals who are 3 to 9, and then people who are what we call avid investors, and they have multiple doors, multiple properties. The reason why we're breaking it down this way is because each of these investors kind of has a different set of desires and pain points. And when you can understand who it is that you're speaking to and how you're servicing them, or what they're looking for from service, you can then actually tailor your business and the service that you're providing towards that. Okay, so knowing what their wants are, what their fears are, you're going to be able to provide them with better service, because each of these types of investors have a different thought process as to what they're doing, and Keith's going to go through that in a second. Okay, so how do you know exactly what that is? We're going to provide you with an opportunity to leverage that in a second with some of our thoughts, but really at the end of the day, it's going back to maybe some of your past clients and speaking to them and saying, hey, when you were in this position, What were you thinking? What was going through your mind? What were you excited about? What were you scared about? Okay? These are conversations we may not have had at that time, but it is an opportunity now for you to go back, whether you've maintained that relationship or reinvigorate that relationship. Because when you have these conversations with people, you're starting to figure out exactly what they're looking to do and what they want to accomplish in life, and suddenly you might start seeing that you're bringing these people back into your sphere and working with them again. Okay? You can talk to other people in the industry. So, you talk to other agents, you can talk to mortgage brokers, people who are in the investment space, you can go to events, things like that, so you can start learning more about this. So this is a situation where if you're looking to get yourself into working with investors, it isn't something where you go, well, what do I need to do first? It's just start having those conversations and getting involved with people within the industry, and then you can see what will resonate best with you and go from there. Okay? One of the things that's really interesting that some people don't always think about is, what if I just went and started talking to existing landlords or even property management companies? You see, a property management company obviously works with investors on a daily basis, but it's why are they there? What is their purpose? And what are their clients speaking to them about? And it's a good opportunity for you as an agent to actually start building a relationship with property management companies and then go from there and say, hey, you know what? Maybe if this client is in that type of situation, I'm going to be able to help support them and go from there. Okay? So, and the last one is talk to your current clients. Because when you have those conversations, there's people who have these aspirations and desires, and sometimes they just don't know what to do. And as you have those conversations, you might be in a good position to be able to start providing them with that support. So Keith, why don't you go ahead and describe this?
So first-time investors, sometimes that first-time investor can fall into it. And how that happens is, and we saw this a lot in Calgary from 2015 to 2021, was they needed to move. The market was the shits, for the lack of a better term. It sucked, right? Couldn't sell homes. They wanted to buy. They needed to move out of the city, whatever it was, and they became an accidental landlord. So they suddenly become this first-time investor. They don't know how to manage it. They don't know what it means. They don't know about accounting. They just don't have a picture of what it means. But they know that they can't live there anymore. And you know that the market's not going to be able to sell it for what they maybe need to sell it for, so they become an accidental landlord. So that's one type of first-time investor. But their main objective is not to lose money. They want to invest, but they don't want to lose money. So your job, as well as my job as the mortgage broker, as the backstop before the final road to the lender, is to make sure this property is going to help them to be an additional buyer and an additional investor, so that they don't buy one, have a horrible experience, and then go, not buying another one, that didn't work out. Well, is that all their fault? Or what part of that responsibility comes on us about making sure that we knew the right things about them at the beginning? And they often don't know where to start. So they get opinions from a million people, but none of the right people. And so that's why our role is so important. That intermediate investor, they often are looking to create that passive income and that growth. They're looking a little bit to their future and their wealth. They know that the government pension or their work pension isn't going to be enough, and they've got this mindset they want to create wealth, maybe a little bit of generational wealth. But what they don't necessarily understand is leverage, how to leverage to get that growth. They want to own 3 properties or 5 properties, but they don't know how to leverage that and to be able to make it happen. And that's where having a mortgage broker that understands certain ways to help them make it happen be such an important role, or you as the realtor being able to help give them direction on buying good cash flowing properties to also help that leverage. But the experienced investor, they're the one that looks at, I want to buy that whole street because I want to build a big building, and then that's going to be my retirement plan. So that's one type of experienced investor. The other is, I want to own the world. Those ones can be really hard to work with because their expectations can be up here, but their ability can be down here. So you've got to manage that space and that gap to help go, okay, whoa, that's fantastic. Let's work to get you there, but let's have a conversation and start with where you're at and what's going to be the roadblocks and what's going to get in the way. And so they often are tapped out on their mortgages. Debt servicing becomes an issue, and they need to understand what different types of resources and options there are for them to be able to get that growth and make it happen. And then as they grow, if they're trying to work full time and they're trying to do this, now you've got the time versus money. Time can be a challenge for experienced investors because they want to do all this, but they haven't made the decision maybe to jump from self-managing to managing. And so there's a time constraint there that gets in the way. Maybe they're not a great property manager, so maybe their properties are under rented, and so now they're creating cash flow problems and debt servicing problems because they're not staying up with bringing their rents up, different things like that. So experienced investors can be a challenge.
Great, and then
the last one, it looks like the slide is
cut off. That's all good, yeah.
Yeah, that's all right. And so the last one is those advanced ones, and which I just kind of touched on there. And so, but they're ones that are looking at, their big thing for the really advanced investors is often things like perpetuity, being able to give money away, being able to pass along huge generational wealth.
Fair enough, but they're also the type of individual that runs this more in a business manner. It's a business for them at this point in time.
Yeah.
They have their own management company most likely, or their investment portfolio, and bringing in money in and setting up REITs and things like that.
Exactly.
And so that hits the next level.
We'll pick up the pace here because I think our time's getting short.
Okay. So. Sounds good. So picking who you'd like to work with. Now, we want to make sure that we give you permission for this, guys. You don't have to work with every type of investor, okay? Pick the type that you want to work with and the type of clients that you do want to work with. And that's where you're actually building out your avatar, okay? And so you got to look back at what are the type of clients that you've really resonated with, the ones you've enjoyed the most working with, the type that you can actually help support, and then go and find those individuals, right? So that's going, again, through those past client interviews. Those are having the conversations with people, industry members, things like that. But what it is like looking at your skills, where your passions are, and at the end of the day, that's going to help you wake up in the morning and say, I'm really energized and excited to be able to work with these individuals, okay? So how do you find these clients?
Well, so attending networking events, that's so critical. If you can find meetups or be part of networking groups, that's one, which includes those investor programs. But tailor your marketing, shift your marketing so that you're maybe doing some targeting towards trying to attract those people. If you've been just generic, I can do real estate for everyone, everywhere, all the time, well, get some focus. Get some focus, and that's often a problem that a lot of realtors or even people as mortgage brokers do is just broad. I can help anyone, anywhere, anytime. Well, no, I'm a real estate investor focused mortgage broker. I want to work with real estate investors because I know how to speak the language. Build partnerships with like-minded individuals. So I want to work with realtors that work with investors. Again, that conversation becomes so much more simple and easier to have because we all speak the same language. We all have the same goal and objective. It's not just to sell the piece of real estate. It's to make sure the client has success so that they buy more.
Perfect. So how do you become the agent of choice? So it's understanding the pain points, understanding the desires, the fears, things like that, and it's speaking the language that those clients are speaking, right? What's on their mind, and just like he said, speak the language. Authority is created when you align your experience to where you are, okay? And sometimes it's better to be working with people when you know where they are and you've been in their shoes as opposed to pretending that you can do it. It's just the most important thing is, can you provide them with that service? And sometimes that experience is what you have, right? And if you don't have the experience, then round yourself out, and we're going to talk about that in a second. And here's the thing. Sometimes, and I was thinking about this when we bought our first house. Sometimes agents want to just get a deal done. And when you're working with investors, yes, you can say, I just want to get the deal done, but usually that doesn't mean there's going to be another deal after that. You have to be brutally honest with these individuals. They're looking for that. They're looking for us not to be salespeople, but to be advisors and be part of their team, right? And so sometimes you have to just tell them, you know what, this is a bad deal, or you could do this better. And you know what, you may not have that experience, but that's where you go ahead and you start looking at having conversations with them. And so we're going to walk through a quick consult as to how you're going to do that with them and go from there.
Yeah, so most often, obviously, when you're working with real estate investors, you need to know so many things. One being, how much could they qualify for to buy for real estate so you're not wasting your time. But there's a much deeper conversation that has to be had. And that's around, do they have a growth mindset? Are they looking to buy one or are they looking to buy many? And what does that look like? What's their timeline? So that's the important part of that conversation. And what are their goals and dreams? Is this for them, or is this for them to create generational wealth? Some people are like, no, they're on their own. This is just for me. This is for my retirement. And what are they looking to do? So here's one of the things that I'm going to warn you of that we see a lot of right now in Calgary because of what's going on in Ontario and BC. We see a lot of people have the mindset that they're going to buy this piece of real estate. It's going to go up in 25-30% in value in Calgary, and they don't care about cash flow. That is a mindset you have as a challenge when you get out-of-province investors who are coming to look here. You have to help them understand this is not Ontario like this. We tend to be more, yeah, we have some drops, but we tend to be more like this. So cash flow is really important in Calgary. Can they take action? Do they even have the capital, or do they have a plan to access capital to be able to buy a property? Are they part of any real estate investing groups? What have they done to educate themselves, to know about what it takes to be a real estate investor and how to manage the property and do all those things? What do they do to analyze deals? How do they analyze deals? Do they have an analyzer that they can actually show you that they put through when they tell you the property doesn't work, that you can say, okay, let's go through your analyzer and see what you came up with? Maybe the property management is too high, or what they estimated for repairs is too high. Oh, this is a brand new property. You should only maybe use 5% instead of 10%. Look at how the cash flow differs, right? Use 25-year amortization instead of 30. Well, let's consider 30-year amortization. Do we need to look at other options? And what's their source of income? Are they someone who's business for self? Or are they an employee? Or are they on salary? Or do they have bonuses and commissions? All these types of things are important parts of that conversation. Are they someone who's going to be a time waster? Because if they don't have capital, and they don't have capacity, and they're not doing anything to educate themselves, what are they doing to be able to make sure they can move forward and actually take action? Because if they're not willing to take small actions along the way, how are they going to take the biggest action and the biggest investment they're likely to make in their life, which is buying that first investment property? How many people lay out $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 of capital into a single investment at any one time? Other than buying their first home, this would probably be the only second time that they'll do that. And do I want to work with them based on the answers they give?
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So let's talk about building the supporting cast, because at the end of the day, you are yourself. Yeah, you are yourself, and you need to round yourself out. So just kind of like when you're helping someone with their first time purchase, or you're going to have your mortgage broker, you're going to have your home inspectors, you're going to have a variety of people that you're going to refer them out to. This is a little bit different. You see, you have to have people who have that mindset and they have the knowledge when they're working within the investment space. So I'm not here to scare anybody away. What I want to say is just make sure you build the right partnerships with the right people. So, if I took someone who does a really good job, and I'm not saying, Keith, you don't do a really good job when it comes to first-time home buyers. If I took that person and I just put them in front of an investor, versus I took someone like Keith and I said, hey, Keith, like, you speak this lingo, you know their language, you've worked with them, you're an investor. It's going to separate my team, the team that I've created, from some of the other agents. And so it's really taking the time to find the right people. A home inspector can go in there and can spend 30 minutes talking to a guy about here's how the furnace works and here's the plumbing system and this and that. Or they can go through and say, here are the biggest things that you got to watch out for, and this is when it's going to turn around. And they're usually in and out within 20, 25 minutes versus, doing the roadshow that they normally do. Okay? So it's really just about having the right people around you, and this is how it's going to be. Is there anything you want to add to that?
I would just want to say, and if you are not someone who owns real estate as an investment yourself, is not part of real estate networking groups and doesn't have that knowledge, then you really need these people behind you to say, because when that investor client asks you and says, well, do you own any real estate, investment real estate? No, I own my home, but you know what? I've got my team. My mortgage broker's got 20 years of experience investing in real estate. My home inspector, my I've got the accountant for you. I've got the lawyer for you. Those are all things, that's how you leverage your team to now help you when you're trying to just break into a space maybe you haven't broken into.
Mm-hmm. We don't have too much more time here, so maybe just talk about leveraging experience.
So when I'm talking to a client and they're saying they want to invest in real, especially those first-time clients, well, will this be a primary home or will it be an investment? Is the intent to keep it in the future as an investment, Or will it be, we'll live here, we're going to sell it? These are all part of also helping them make the decisions also on the type of mortgage they should get based on that conversation. Most people sell a home within 36 to 38, or break a mortgage within 36 to 38 months. So how that's set up for them is so critical, because that could financially set them back if they've got the wrong product based on what their goals were, because nobody asked them what their goals were up front. And if you're looking at types of opportunities, so because I work with investors, there are unique products out there that I'm more highly aware of and astute to than probably a lot of mortgage brokers are, like net worth rentals, using your net worth to buy rental properties. Flip properties, different products that are available for lenders to be able to get into flip properties and do them in many different types of financing ways. Business for self-stated income. There's a lot, Calgary's high entrepreneurship and high business ownership. Understanding people who are business for self and how to, the difference between tax versus interest and helping them understand that conversation can be a huge money saver. Rehabbed grow-ups. Most people don't know that you can actually get A-lender financing on a rehabbed grow-up. You just have to know which lenders to find it from. Reverse mortgages. How many of you have ever seen someone who's a senior wants to stay in their home, they also own rentals, they don't know how to make it work? Most people don't know if you have a reverse mortgage on your primary home, you can also get a reverse mortgage on a rental. And that's often a way that people can continue to build growth or give money to family so that that family can start to grow real estate. Mm-hmm. And there's lenders with unlimited rentals. There's some lenders that have unlimited rentals. And actually two lenders came out with a product. No matter how many rentals you own, you can now buy a primary. You just have to you have to do the cash flow analysis on their rental worksheet, but that's something that's now new in the market. So there's things like this that most people don't stay astute to because they're not focused on real estate investors. Because quite honestly, they take a lot more time to do mortgages for than really any other client because the paperwork is that much heavier.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, so just in summary, again, it's just, there's a variety of different investors out there. Know which ones that you resonate most with. Figure out what your skill sets are. And wherever you may have a bit of a lack in it, you can supplement it with the right people around you, and then go at it and have fun.
Yeah, Jamil mentioned property managers earlier. If you are a realtor and you have not made connections with a property manager or the property managed division of your office, if you have that in your office, you are missing out on potential opportunities for off-market properties and off-market deals possibly, or that can turn into on-market deals for you by not staying in touch with them and going, you have any rental problem properties where you're having a hard time getting tenants for that property, or you can seem to always have problems with the tenants for that property, or whatever it may be. You have any landlords that are complaining to you constantly about cash flow on a property because their expenses seem to be continuously high or whatever it happens to be. Those are questions to be asking property managers to help you find other opportunities. Because coming into 2023, right now, we're not seeing more properties come on the market. So you've got to find those properties. You've got to find, if there's one thing real estate investors want, and most experienced ones are going to ask you, is what can you do to bring me an off-market property before anybody else gets to see it? So you've got to have that in your wheelhouse and in your bag of tricks to be able to work with these type of investors.
All right.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, you're welcome.
Thank you.